Alright everyone, welcome back. This is the Asylum I-589 workshop, step by step. This is part 2. Again, our team members are the English voiceover is done by Michael Charron. The Dari voiceover is by Mr. Ahmad, Farid, Noori. The Pashto version is Mr. Ahmad, Shah, Aryan. The slides were created by Brother Michael with assistance from the other Fort McCoy, OAW, USCCB, legal clinic staff, and volunteers. The staff members include Sahar Taman, Lindsay King, Allison Tabor, Amy Cratch, and Michael Charron. We also had a ton of volunteer immigration attorneys who helped us. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. Here is a link to part 1. You can watch this before this part or after this part, whichever you prefer. We do not intend to help you complete the entire application at this time. We are not representing you as your attorney or accredited rep. We are providing information that we have to the best of our knowledge. Laws and policies may change. You need to get a lawyer or accredited rep because you will need to get legal assistance. Find an attorney or accredited immigration representative once you get to your new home. You can hire one, find one who charges discounted fees, or even one that will not charge you. Your resettlement agency is required to assist you in finding legal help. What is asylum? When someone asks for asylum, they ask for protection. They are asking not to be returned to their country. When someone asks for asylum, they ask to remain in the United States and to be able to live and work here. While you're applying for your asylum, you do not want to travel anywhere. The chances are, if you go out of the country, you may not be let back in. You do not want to go to Afghanistan until you become a U.S. citizen. If you want to meet your family or friends, do so in a third country, but do not go back to Afghanistan until you have full U.S. citizenship. Your basis or your grounds for asylum are important. People who have suffered persecution in the past or are likely to suffer in the future are the ones who qualify for asylum based on race or ethnicity, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. Race or ethnicity, these are some of the examples of different ethnicities in Afghanistan. Pashtun, Tajik, Uzbek, Hazara, Sadat, Turkmen, Nuristani, Pashtai, Pashai, Pamiri, Sikh, Hindu, Kirts, Arab, Gyar, Mughal, Omer, Waki, Dars. There could be others. Race could mean shared physical characteristics which equal social visibility, especially an overt way of identifying a person. Ethnicity could equal shared language, location or geography, customs, cultural history, ancestry, etc. Do not worry about your group's size or age or about the fact that you do or do not self-identify with a group. Focus on establishing your persecutors' beliefs about the group. Religion. Afghanistan is a Muslim majority country. If you were forced to do things that were not part of your religious practices, or if you believe you would be forced to do things that are not your accepted religious practices if you were sent back to Afghanistan, then mark religion. Is your faith subject to threat? Have you been told you cannot go back to your place of worship? Has your place of worship been attacked or threatened by the Taliban? Nationality. This basis is likely to be this basis is unlikely to be applicable to Afghans. If it is, it's not necessarily just citizenship. It may be an ethnic or linguistic group, and it may overlap with race. For instance, a Bosnian Muslim involves religion and nationality. Dinka in Sudan involves race, nationality, and religion. Political opinion. There's no requirement to be politically active to apply for asylum. Just opposing the current regime is a political opinion. If you fled the current regime, then you should mark political opinion as a basis for your asylum. I believe could be any opinion you have that you think you will be persecuted for having. You likely have a political opinion against the Taliban. Actual political opinion means you have the opinion yourself. Imputed political opinion means someone else thinks or believes you have the opinion. For instance, a political activist's daughter is persecuted for her father's activities. Either of these count as a political opinion. Membership in a particular social group. Here's some examples. There could be more. Translators, people who assisted or worked for the Afghan or US government. CIA informants, women living under the Taliban. Sexual orientation minorities, people who are educated. English speakers, student groups, journalists, various people on social media, musicians. I'm sure you can think of others. A group involves a common immutable characteristic. Members of the group either cannot change or should not be required to change because it is fundamental to their individual identities or consciences. Again, we return to the Convention Against Torture. You want to talk with your attorney about checking this box. The UN does not allow travel under Convention Against Torture, but the US Congress does. Talk with your attorney about your travel plans for the future. Notice this is where you want to keep the box blank. You will connect your story with the boxes you check. These boxes. Check as many boxes as you feel appropriate. Until now, the asylum application involved basic information. We're now going to enter the more difficult part of the asylum application, where you will tell your story about persecution you experienced at home and/or persecution you believe you will experience if you go back home. For some, this may be difficult and emotional. For others, it may not. What is persecution? Threat to life or freedom on account of the 5 grounds. Poverty, general crime, and bad luck are not enough. Threats or acts of significant physical injury to the body. For example, sexual assault, kidnapping, confinement, torture, government-sponsored genocide, blood, bones, teeth, degrading treatment, cruel treatment. Non-physical threats or acts that constitute persecution could be discrimination, economic harm, criminal extortion, robbery, severe punishment for committing a crime, denials of basic human rights. Voting, the right to vote, the right to free speech, the right to movement, the right to gather. In light of all the traumatic events that happened in Afghanistan, all the worry for family members still there, all the anxiety of adjusting to living in a new land and a new culture, please take time to be silent and still, if only for a minute, and rest. You may use this time as you wish. Prayer, reflection, thought, just being still, whatever you would like to silently do. I will let you know when a minute is up. Thank you. So what we're essentially going to be doing is writing your story. If you cannot read or write, you could also record or video your statement with your phone and then have your statement transcribed. U.S. forms can be complicated and confusing, but you have more control over this application than you may think. It is something you can control. You can fill out a form. You can write a statement. You can seek to remember information. You can start collecting evidence. You can help others who need help, and if you are in need of help, you can reach out to your fellow Afghans. Take charge of this application and work on it. Your attorney will likely help you at a free or reduced cost. Your best effort will help a lawyer immensely. Do not be concerned about doing this application wrong or making this application perfect. First remembering, then telling your story is the most important thing you can do, even if your story is not completely organized. A disorganized but worked on statement is better than no statement at all. We'll start on part B, number 1A, and 1B, which is on page 5. The past. Letter A is associated with the past. Have you, your family, or close friends or colleagues ever experienced harm, mistreatments, or threats by anyone in the past? The importance of past persecution is there's a legal presumption of future persecution. The government can rebut with proof of a changed circumstance by preponderance of the evidence. But if you have past persecution, the government has the burden to prove persecution will not happen again. The future. Do you fear harm or mistreatment if you return to Afghanistan. It is harder to prove future persecution generally. It is easier to prove future persecution if you have past persecution evidence. For each of these parts, you need to answer all of the question words: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Answer these questions for the past, for things that have happened in the past, and answer these questions for things that you think will happen in the future. You versus your persecutors. You need to tell your story and maybe your persecutor's story. This will give the people reading your story an understanding of your persecutors as well. You may think U.S. officials know what is happening in Afghanistan, but a bureaucrat may know nothing. So essentially, you need to answer the past about yourself and your persecutors, all of the questions, and then your future, you and your persecutors, all of the questions. The boxes are not going to be enough, they're not going to contain enough space for you to write a full statement. Because of that, you can just write C statement in the boxes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to write quietly for 15 minutes, or just take some notes for 15 minutes. Your own words are important. Write in your own language. To help you, we have some prompts. One is, I first felt afraid when I got on the plane because I was mistreated because if I return, something will happen to me because I need protection because. An example, I got a threat letter. My cousin got kidnapped because he believed in democracy. Please pause this video for at least 15 minutes to write or take notes. It's very important that you get started. Well, I hope you have a lot of notes, or at least the beginning of a statement after that 15 minutes. As you can tell by having started, writing will take time. It's because you have to remember. Afterwards, with help, you can distill your story down to be a persuasive statement. Today, try to remember the big details, the most memorable, the big ones, the big dots. These are probably the worst things that happen to you and your family, and are probably the most traumatic. But as you remember more of the details, your story begins to take shape. And with Asylum, little things together can add up to big things in an asylum case. After a long time of remembering and writing down memories, finally your story is very detailed and gives an asylum officer a full picture of why you should be granted asylum. You do not want to regret an important fact in your brain that could have helped your case. You have the burden of proof. Americans may not know all they need to know about the Afghan situation, so your asylum packet needs to show you are fleeing persecution on a protected ground. Your evidence will be the only factor the immigration officer is allowed to consider when making a decision. You have to prove that you have a well-founded fear. A well-founded fear needs to be objective and subjective. Subjective means that you have the fear. Objective means a reasonable person would also have the fear. So for instance, if I'm completely afraid of a little bug, most reasonable people are not afraid of a little bug. A well-founded fear involves a reasonable probability, which is lower than preponderance of the evidence. A 1 in 10 probability. This is a very low bar, which is helpful if you're trying to get asylum. What you have to prove: persecution. Poverty, being the victim of a crime, or bad luck is not enough. Behavior that threatens death, imprisonment, infliction of substantial harm or suffering. Again, blood, bones, teeth. Hallmarks of persecution are detention, arrest, interrogation, prosecution, imprisonment, illegal searches, property confiscation, surveillance, beatings or torture. Serious things. Again, you have to show that it's based on the 5 factors: race, ethnicity, religion, nationality, political opinion, or social group. You need to prove a nexus, a connection or series of connections linking two things. A nexus could be the glue between you and the situation, the well-founded fear. It's the because, the but for. Show the past harm that happened to you was motivated by the 5 protected characteristics. You also have to prove that the government is the persecutor, or more likely in the case of Afghanistan, the government cannot control the persecutors. How to find an attorney. Hopefully your caseworker will connect you with an attorney. This is one way of trying to get an attorney, by signing up for Human Rights First. It's a free legal service for Afghans in the U.S. seeking free legal representation. They ask that you fill out the form by scanning the QR code provided on the next slide with your phone. Here's the QR code. In response to the Afghan evacuation, Human Rights First created the Project Afghan Legal Assistance to help provide legal representation to Afghan refugees who have arrived in the U.S. If you need translation help for legal services or for anything else, here's an app for your phone called Tarjimly. You can download it onto your phone, or you can go to www.tarjim.ly. What this will do is when you send out a request for a translator, there's many people in the United States who are willing to translate for you. They will get notified that somebody needs a translator, and if they're available, they can pick up and do your translating for you. Hopefully you'll find this very useful. These are the bars to asylum. If you miss the 1-year deadline, it's generally a bar to asylum. Serious crimes are bars to asylum. And participation in a terrorist group is a bar to asylum, especially giving material support to a terrorist group. All right, we made it through. Now we're on part B, questions 2 through 4. Again, the boxes are not very big, so If you don't have enough room, you can write C statement. Question 2 is about crimes. Have you or your family members ever been accused, charged, arrested, detained, interrogated, convicted, and sentenced, or imprisoned in any country other than the United States? Be honest, reveal info and explain why it has nothing to do with you or what you have done to change. Talk with an attorney. Put none, if none. This question can hurt you. For instance, if you stole a car in Afghanistan. But it could also help. Maybe you were arrested for having a beard that was too short. Next, we have organizational group. Have you or your family members ever belonged to or been associated with any organization or group? Again, this may help you. For instance, if you were in a human rights group targeted by the Taliban. It could also hurt. For instance, if you were in a terrorist group that hurt others. It cannot hurt to include others, that is being part of a group, so you can talk about other people in the group as well. Give the dates you were a member and give the reasons the group is targeted. Question 4 is about a torture fear. Are you afraid of being subjected to torture in your home country? If yes, then answer the question words. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. The U.S. government may or may not be aware of the situation in Afghanistan, but you have to tell your personal story. What happened to you? Do not write in generalities, write specifically. Part C. Again, if there's not enough room in the box, you can just say C statement. Question 1 is about a previous application. Have you, your spouse, children, parents, or siblings ever applied to the U.S. government for refugee status, asylum, or withholding of removal? Note, SIV is not asking for asylum or refugee status. Part C, question 2, travels. After leaving Afghanistan, did you, your spouse, or children in the U.S. ever travel through or reside in any country before entering the U.S.? This could be a good response for people that got evacuated from Afghanistan. As part of the evacuation from Afghanistan, we made stops in both Qatar and Germany before arriving in the United States. In both countries, we stayed on U.S. military bases and did not ask for or receive any immigration status in either country. Question A is about traveling through or residing in another country. Question B is about getting lawful immigration status in another country. Part B asks, have you, spouse, kids, parents, or siblings ever applied for or received any lawful status in any country other than Afghanistan? This is where you could put down your mother went to Germany. You could put down your sister has a green card in France. You could also say your brother is a U.S. citizen. Part C, question 3 is about causing harm or suffering. Have you, your spouse, or your children ever ordered, incited, assisted, or otherwise participated in causing harm or suffering to any person because of his or her race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or belief in a particular political opinion? This question can be very complicated for people that were in the military, especially if you, your spouse, or your children were in the military and Taliban died. Seek legal advice if this is your situation. Question 4 is, did you go back? After you left the country where you were harmed or fear harm, Afghanistan, did you return to Afghanistan? This should be an easy no. But if you left to visit another country, mention it here. Disclose all your international travel. They want to see if there is an ongoing threat and you went back. If you go back to Afghanistan, your asylum application will almost certainly not be granted. Asylum is based on fear of returning to your country, so if you return, you are clearly not generally afraid. If you want to continue processing your asylum application, do not return to Afghanistan. You should not return until you have full U.S. citizenship. Question 5 is the more than 1 year question. Are you filing this application more than 1 year after your U.S. arrival? This should be an easy no. Remember, we discussed the 1 year deadline. If you wait more than 1 year and have to check yes here, you should speak to an attorney because your application will need significant help. Watch out. Some people are saying that Afghans don't have to file for asylum within 1 year because of the situation. Be careful of this because you are responsible for proving that it was them, someone outside of you, not you, that caused the delay. Question number 6 is United States of America crimes. Have you or any family member included in the application ever committed any crime, been arrested, charged, convicted, or sentenced in the United States? Hopefully you can answer honestly, no. Don't do anything bad while you're here, but if you do, disclose it. Be honest. It can be tough to tell the truth, but it is better in the long run. Well, we made it through the declaration or the statement part, and now we're going back to the form part. This won't be very complicated. It's just a matter of giving you information. So we're going back to the form. Important legalese. Your signature is your oath. Your signature is your promise. Print your name in English. Print your name in your alphabet. There's a place for your signature later. The oath. Part D, your signature. All this language states, you can read it as much as you can read all of it. I suggest you read all of it. Generally speaking, this language states you are swearing under penalty of perjury that everything in your application is true. Passport photos. You want them to be in color and you want them to be 2 by 2 inches in size. You want to write the person's name and their alien number, A number, USCIS number on the back of the passport photo, like this. Passport photos are to be printed on thin, photo quality paper, taken within the past 6 months. You need a current appearance. You want a full face, front view with plain, off-white, or white background. between 1 inch and 1 3/8 inches from the bottom of the chin to the top of the head. Taken in normal street attire. No uniform should be worn, but religious attire that's worn daily is okay. No hat or headgear that obscures hair or hairline. If you normally wear a hearing device, wig, or similar articles, wear them for your picture. Eyeglasses are not allowed in passport photos. Sunglasses are not acceptable unless you need them for medical reasons. Articles worn for religious or medical reasons should be accompanied by a statement to that effect. You want to place your passport photo onto this part. You can staple it or tape it or use a paper clip. Doesn't matter. There's a question about family assistance or not. Did your spouse, parent, or children assist you in completing this application? You can check no if that's the right answer. You can check yes. If yes, then write the name and relationship here. There's actually 2 spaces. Check no unless you had a family member help you with this application. Then it asks if you have an attorney or not. Did someone other than your spouse, parent, or children prepare this application? If yes, complete Part E, which we'll talk about later. Check no unless an attorney helped you with this application. The list. This is a very important part. Asylum applicants may be represented by counsel. Have you been provided with a list of persons who may be available to assist you at little or no cost with your asylum claim? No or yes. Your resettlement agent should connect you with legal services as part of your benefits. Make sure to keep records of any contact you have with your caseworker regarding legal services. This will help you prove you sought legal services. Then you sign your name within the brackets and write your date, the date. Part E would talk about preparers and copies that you need to make. So here's Part E. You leave it blank unless you had a lawyer or interpreter helping you. Generally speaking, the lawyer or the preparer should be filling this part out themselves. Submitting extra copies when applying with children or a spouse. If you are applying for your children or spouse, you must submit a separate copy of Form I-589 and all attachments for each person. They will all go together in the same envelope, but each person gets their own copy. Attach a passport-size photo of each applicant in Part D. Remember to write the name and A number on the back of the passport photo. So the first copy has a passport photo of the primary applicant. The remaining copies have a passport photo of spouse and children attached in Part D. So you would put your wife's photo here, and she would have her own copy. Then you would make another copy for your first child and put that child's face here. Your second child, you'd have a whole copy for them and put their face here. It's essential that you copy the whole entire file for each person. If you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends. But remember, this is not legal advice because it is only general information. You and your friends need an attorney to help guide you through the particulars of your individual situation. Advocate for what you need. Be vigilant with your caseworker about getting legal help. Without legal help, you will not be able to stay in the USA forever. Here's some nuts and some bolts. These are things you might add to your asylum application. 1. An interpreter certification. Interpretations do not need to be professionally done, but interpretations have to be done by someone competent in English and the original language. Use this section if the petitioner does not speak English. Hold on for a minute. Sorry about this. All right, we're back. Interpretations do not have to be professionally done, but interpretations have to be done by someone competent in English and the original language. Here's an example of an interpreter certification. You can look at this. You can pause the video and look at this in detail. Next is a cover letter. A cover letter makes your application look professional and guides the officer through the documents included in your application. See the following example. Here's the first page. Again, you can pause the video and look through this and copy it however you wish to do it. Here's some more. And again, more. This packet is going to have a lot of documents in it. Finally, the end. Then we have a sworn affidavit template or a statement template. Be careful about templates because this really is about you and you have your own unique situation. So take a template for what it's worth, but be aware that you need to talk about your own personal story and not depend on a template. It is very important that your affidavit be organized in chronological order. After the introduction, talk about your childhood from birth to age 18. Then mention your higher education, jobs, and political activism, if any. Remaining paragraphs should talk about the harm that you suffered, or those who are like, or that those who are like you have suffered. Again, here's another place where you want to pause the video. This is an example of a statement. And some more. And some more. Now, here's a second example of a template. There we go. There's some more. And some more. And even more. Here are some statement tips. Tell the truth. Keep the overall objective in mind. Know what to include and how to structure it. Don't be so concerned about this at the beginning. Wait for your attorney to help you with this one. The length. Some lawyers say it should be short. Other lawyers say it does not matter. Again, you want to give the lawyer as much information as you can possibly give the lawyer. So don't worry about keeping it short until the lawyer that you are working with tells you what they think it needs to look like. You need to know how to describe an incident. Basically, use all of those question words: who, what, where, when, why, and how. Be true, complete, detailed, and consistent. Be precise when talking about time and place. Keep your statement with you. Read it from time to time so you remember important details. This is so when you go to the interview, you will know your statement backwards and forwards. If a private person threatened you, you need to connect them with the state. Did the state tolerate or endorse this treatment? Was the state indifferent or unable to protect you? You can approach your statement however you like. One way is to state every detail, write the whole story, and pull out the worst parts. Another way is step by step. What happened? What happened next? There's many ways, but way 3 could be your way. Remember, it's your statement, it's your words, and it's your style. Evidence, your homework. You have to have evidence to support yourself. Major sources of evidence are your story, your country's conditions, and other corroborating evidence, forensic evidence. You can also involve photos, files, videos, papers, etc., etc. This is a good website to learn about country conditions, refworld.org. News accounts on Afghanistan may be included: CNN, BBC, the Associated Press, Reuters, Al Jazeera. Other news organizations and Afghan news organizations carry stories on Afghanistan that can support your asylum claims. For example, reports on restrictions on women in employment and demands that those who worked for the prior government turn themselves in to the Taliban. As I said before, your asylum packet is going to be rather large. You'll include your form I-589. You'll include a passport picture, your detailed sworn affidavit, statement, or declaration, your witness declarations, pictures related to your claim of explosions, a burnt home, or corpses, your passport, tazkira, or other document copies showing Afghan citizenship, documents related to your claim, mail, text messages, etc. Country conditions which are available online, medical records, a psychological evaluation report. Stop. Before you send anything in to the USCIS, you should have an immigration lawyer review the entire application, your form, your statement, and all of your evidence. Do not send this in without help from an attorney. You will have to go through an interview which should take about 1 to 2 hours. The whole family is called for the interview, but only mom and dad are interviewed formally. If your asylum is granted, great. You get your permanent residency. If your asylum is not granted, you get to try again, this time with an immigration judge. If your asylum is granted, these are the next steps. If your spouse and children under age 21 of age are not in the U.S., you can petition for them as soon as your asylum is granted, as long as you listed your spouse and children on the form I-589. You can do this by filing the form I-730. 1 year after receiving asylum, you can file for adjustment of status on Form I-485. If this is granted, you will become a legal permanent resident of the United States. I think I did not speak correctly when I talked about A. So you get asylum first, then you have to wait 1 year after getting asylum, then you can petition for your legal permanent residency. 4 years and 9 months after becoming a legal permanent resident, you can file an application for naturalization, which is your citizenship. Once you become a citizen, you can petition for your parents and siblings, although the latter take about 12 years. So I just want to go over that. You apply for asylum, you get your asylum, then 1 year after receiving asylum, you can ask for your legal permanent resident, your green card, and then 4 years and 9 months after that, you can ask for citizenship. We're not done yet. Oh, I guess we are done. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for taking time to watch. I hope you find a good attorney, and I hope you are granted asylum. And I hope that your time in the U.S. is good time. Thanks again.